Trousers are an item of clothing worn from the waist to the ankles, covering both legs separately. In the UK, the word pants generally means underwear and not trousers. Shorts are similar to trousers, but with legs that come down only to or around the area of the knee, higher or lower depending on the style of the garment. To distinguish them from shorts, trousers may be called long trousers in certain contexts such as school uniform, where tailored shorts may be called short trousers, especially in the UK. In most of the Western world, trousers have been worn since ancient times and throughout the medieval period, becoming the most common form of lower body clothing for adult males in the modern world, although shorts are also widely worn, and kilts and other garments may be worn in various regions and cultures. Breeches were worn instead of trousers in early modern Europe by some men in higher classes of society. Since the mid-20th century, trousers have increasingly been worn by women as well. Jeans, made of denim, are a form of trousers for casual wear, now widely worn all over the world by both sexes. Shorts are often preferred in hot weather or for some sports, and also often by children and teenagers. Trousers are worn on the hips or waist and may be held up by their own fastenings, a belt or suspenders. Leggings are form-fitting trousers, of a clingy material, often knitted cotton and spandex. Terminology. In the United Kingdom and Ireland, the words trousers, or slacks, were historically used for women's trousers. In Scotland, trousers are occasionally known as trews, which is the historic root of the word trousers. Trousers are also known as breeks in Scots, a word related to breeches. The item of clothing worn under trousers is underpants. The standard form, trousers, is also used, but it is sometimes pronounced in a manner approximately represented by trus, which is possibly a throwback to the Gaelic word truas, which the English word originates from. In North America and Australia, pants is the general category term, whereas trousers often refer more specifically to tailored garments with a waistband, belt loops, and a fly front. So informal elastic waist knitted garments would be called pants, but not trousers. North Americans call undergarments underwear, underpants, undies, jockey shorts, shorts, long johns or panties to distinguish them from other pants that are worn on the outside. The term drawers normally refers to undergarments, but in some dialects, may be found as a synonym for breeches, that is, trousers. In these dialects, the term underdrawers is used for undergarments. Many North Americans refer to their undergarments by their type, such as boxers or briefs. In Australia, men's underwear also has various informal terms including underdacks, undies, dacks or jocks. In New Zealand, men's underwear is known as undies, or Y-fronts. In parts of northern England, especially the areas historically part of Lancashire, the word pants is used instead of trousers, with the word trousers often specifically referring to formal garments. In some places, such as Liverpool, the terms keckers or kegs may also be used. Various people in the fashion industry use the words trouser or pant instead of trousers or pants. This is non-standard usage. The words trousers and pants are pluraliatantum, nouns that generally only appear in plural form, much like the words scissors and tongs. However, the singular form is used in some compound words, such as trouser leg, trouser press and trouser bottoms. Jeans are trousers typically made from denim or dungaree cloth. Skin-tight leggings are commonly referred to as tights. History. Prehistory. There is some evidence, from figurative art, of trousers being worn in the Upper Paleolithic, as seen on the figurines found at the Siberian sites of Malta and Buret. Made of wool, the trousers had straight legs and wide crotches, and were likely made for horseback riding. Antiquity. Trousers first enter recorded history in the 6th century BC, with the appearance of horse-riding Iranian peoples in Greek ethnography. At this time, not only the Persians, but also allied Eastern and Central Asian peoples such as the Bactrians, Armenians, Tigrax or the Scythians and Jornu are known to have worn them. Trousers are believed to have been worn by both sexes among these early users. However, they did not wear trousers, since they thought them ridiculous, using the word theta upsilon lambda alpha kappa omicron iota, place of theta upsilon lambda alpha kappa omicron sigma, sac, as a slang term for the loose trousers of Persians and other Orientals. Republican Rome viewed the draped clothing of Greek and Minoan culture as an emblem of civilization and disdained trousers as the mark of barbarians. As the empire expanded beyond the Mediterranean basin, however, the greater warmth provided by trousers led to their adoption. Two types of trousers eventually saw widespread use in Rome: the feminalia, which fit snugly and usually felt knee or mid-calf length, and the brachii, a loose-fitting trouser that was closed at the ankles. Both garments were adopted originally from the Celts of Europe, although later familiarity with the Persian Near East and the Teutons increased acceptance. Feminalia and brachii both began use as military garments, spreading to civilian dress later, and were eventually made in a variety of materials including leather, wool, cotton and silk. Medieval Europe trousers of various designs were worn throughout the Middle Ages in Europe, especially by men. Loose-fitting trousers were worn in Byzantium under long tunics, and were worn by many tribes, such as the Germanic tribes that migrated to Western Roman Empire in the late Antiquity and early Middle Ages, as evidenced by both artistic sources and such relics as the 4th century costumes recovered from the Thorsberg bog. Trousers in this period, generally called brays, varied in length and were often closed at the cuff or even had attached foot coverings, although open-legged pants were also seen. By the 8th century there is evidence of the wearing in Europe of 2 layers of trousers, especially among upper-class males. The underlayer is today referred to by costume historians as drawers, although that usage did not emerge until the late 16th century. Over the drawers were worn trousers of wool or linen, which in the 10th century began to be referred to as breeches in many places. Tightness of fit and length of leg varied by period, class, and geography. Although Charlemagne is recorded to have habitually worn trousers, donning the Byzantine tunic only for ceremonial occasions, the influence of the Roman past and the example of Byzantium led to the increasing use of long tunics by men, hiding most of the trousers from view and eventually rendering them an undergarment for many. As undergarments, these trousers became briefer or longer as the length of the various medieval outer garments changed, and were met by, and usually attached to, another garment variously called hose or stockings. In the 14th century it became common among the men of the noble or knightly classes to connect the hose directly to their paw-points rather than to their drawers. In the 15th century, rising hemlines led to ever briefer drawers until they were dispensed with altogether by the most fashionable elites who joined their skin-tight hose back into trousers. These trousers, which we would today call tights but which were still called hose or sometimes joined hose at the time, emerged late in the 15th century and were conspicuous by their open crotch, which was covered by an independently fastening front panel, the codpiece. The exposure of the hose to the waist was consistent with 15th century trends, which also brought the paw-point, doubleau and the shirt, previously undergarments, into view, but the most revealing of these fashions were only ever adopted at court and not by the general population. Men's clothes in Hungary in the 15th century consisted of a shirt and trousers as underwear, and a dolman worn over them, as well as a short fur-lined or sheepskin coat. Hungarians generally wore simple trousers, only their color being unusual. The dolman covered the greater part of the trousers. Europe before the 1900s. Around the turn of the 16th century it became conventional to separate hose into 2 pieces. One from the waist to the crotch, which fastened around the top of the legs, called trunk hose, and the other running beneath it to the foot. The trunk hose soon reached down the thigh to fasten below the knee and were now usually called breeches to distinguish them from the lower leg. Coverings still called hose or sometimes stockings. By the end of the 16th century, the codpiece had also been incorporated into breeches which featured a fly or full front opening. As a modernization measure, Tsar Peter the Great issued a decree in 1701 commanding every Russian, other than clergy and peasant farmers, to wear trousers. During the French Revolution, male citizens of France adopted a working-class costume including ankle-length trousers or pantaloons in place of the aristocratic knee breeches. The new garment of the revolutionaries differed from that of the ancient regime upper classes in three ways. It was loose where the style for breeches had most recently been form-fitting. It was ankle-length where breeches had generally been knee-length for more than 2 centuries, and they were open at the bottom while breeches were fastened. This style was introduced to England in the early 19th century, possibly by Beau Brummel, and by mid-century had supplanted breeches as fashionable street wear. At this point, even knee-length pants adopted the open bottoms of trousers and were worn by young boys, for sports, and in tropical climates. Breeches proper survived into the 20th century as court dress, and also in baggy mid-calf versions known as plus-fours or knickers worn for active sports and by young schoolboys. Types of breeches are still worn today by baseball and American football players. Sailors may have played a role in the worldwide dissemination of trousers as a fashion. In the 17th and 18th centuries, sailors wore baggy trousers known as galligaskins. Sailors also pioneered the wearing of jeans, trousers made of denim. These became more popular in the late 19th century in the American West because of their ruggedness and durability. Starting around the mid-19th century, wig and pit-brow girls scandalized Victorian society by wearing trousers for their work at the local coal mines. They wore skirts over their trousers and rolled them up to their waists to keep them out of the way. Although pit-brow lasses worked above ground at the pit head, the task of sorting and shoveling coal involved hard manual labor, so wearing the usual long skirts of the time would have greatly hindered their movements. Medieval Korea. The Korean word for trousers, baji, first appears in recorded history around the turn of the 15th century. But pants may have been in use by Korean society for some time. From at least this time, pants were worn by both sexes in Korea. Men wore trousers either as outer garments or beneath skirts, while it was unusual for adult women to wear their pants without a covering skirt. As in Europe, a wide variety of styles came to define regions, time periods and age and gender groups, from the inlined goea to the padded sombaji. Women wearing trousers. See also the laws section below in this article. Although women had been wearing trousers for outdoor work thousands of years earlier in the Western world, by the time of Christianization it had become taboo for women to wear trousers. It was Eastern culture that inspired French designer Paul Poiret to be one of the first to design pants for women. In 1913, Poiret created loose-fitting, wide-leg trousers for women called harem pants, which were based on the costumes of the popular opera Scheherazade. Written by Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov in 1888, Scheherazade was based on a collection of legends from the Middle East called 1001 Arabian Nights. In the early 20th century, women air pilots and other working women often wore trousers. Frequent photographs from the 1930s of actresses Marlene Dietrich and Katharine Hepburn in trousers helped make trousers acceptable for women. During World War II, women working in factories and doing other forms of men's work on war service wore trousers when the work demanded it. In the post-war era, trousers became acceptable casual wear for gardening, the beach, and other leisurely pursuits. Further, in Britain during World War II, because of the rationing of clothing, many women took to wearing their husbands' civilian clothes, including their trousers, to work while their husbands were away from home serving in the armed forces. This was partly because they were seen as practical workwear and partly to allow women to keep their clothing allowance for other uses. As this practice of wearing trousers became more widespread and as the men's clothing wore out, replacements were needed. By the summer of 1944, it was reported that sales of women's trousers were 5 times more than they had been in the previous year. In 1919, Louisa Capitello challenged mainstream society by becoming the first woman in Puerto Rico to wear trousers in public. Capitello was sent to jail for what was then considered to be a crime, but the judge later dropped the charges against her. In the 1960s, André Courreges introduced long trousers for women as a fashion item, leading to the era of the pantsuit and designer jeans and the gradual erosion of social prohibitions against girls and women wearing trousers in schools, the workplace, and in fine restaurants. In 1969, Wahida Charlotte Reed became the first woman to wear trousers in the U.S. Congress. Pat Nixon was the first American First Lady to wear trousers in public. In 1989, California State Senator Rebecca Morgan became the first woman to wear trousers in a U.S. State Senate. Hillary Clinton was the first woman to wear trousers in an official American First Lady portrait. Women were not allowed to wear trousers on the U.S. Senate floor until 1993. In 1993, Senators Barbara Mikulski and Carol Moseley Brown wore trousers onto the floor in defiance of the rule, and female support staff followed soon after, with the rule being amended later that year by Senate Sergeant-at-Arms Martha Pope to allow women to wear trousers on the floor so long as they also wore a jacket. In Malawi, women were not legally allowed to wear trousers under President Kamuzu Banda's rule until 1994. This law was introduced in 1965. Since 2004, the International Skating Union has allowed women to wear trousers instead of skirts in competition. In 2009, journalist Lubna Hussein was fined the equivalent of $200 when a court found her guilty of violating Sudan's decency laws by wearing trousers. In 2012, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police began to allow women to wear trousers and boots with all their formal uniforms. In 2012 and 2013, some Mormon women participated in Wear Pants to Church Day, in which they wore trousers to church instead of the customary dresses to encourage gender equality within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Over 1,000 women participated in this in 2012. In 2013, Turkey's parliament ended a ban on women lawmakers wearing trousers in its assembly. Also in 2013, an old bylaw requiring women in Paris, France, to ask permission from city authorities before dressing as men, including wearing trousers, was declared officially revoked by France's women's rights minister, Najat Vallaud-Belkacem. The bylaw was originally intended to prevent women from wearing the pantalons fashionable with Parisian rebels in the French Revolution. Parts of trousers. Pleats just below the waistband on the front typify many styles of formal and casual trousers, including suit trousers and khakis. There may be 1, 2, 3, or no pleats, which may face either direction. When the pleats open towards the pockets, they are called reverse pleats, and when they open toward the fly, they are known as forward pleats. Cuffs. Trouser makers can finish the legs by hemming the bottom to prevent fraying. Trousers with turn-ups, after hemming, are rolled outward and sometimes pressed or stitched into place. Fly is a covering over an opening joint concealing the mechanism, such as a zipper, velcro or buttons, used to join the opening. In trousers, this is most commonly an opening covering the groin, which makes the pants easier to put on or take off. The opening also allows men to urinate without lowering their trousers. Trousers have varied historically in whether or not they have a fly. Originally, hose did not cover the area between the legs. This was instead covered by a doublet or by a codpiece. When breeches were worn during the Regency period, for example, they were full-fronted. Later, after trousers were invented, the fly front emerged. The panelled front returned as a sporting option, such as in riding breeches, but is now hardly ever used, a fly being by far the most common fastening. Most flies now use a zipper, though button fly pants continue to be available. Trouser support at present. Most trousers are held up through the assistance of a belt which is passed through the belt loops on the waistband of the trousers. However, this was traditionally a style acceptable only for casual trousers and work trousers. Suit trousers and formal trousers were suspended by the use of braces attached to buttons located on the interior or exterior of the waistband. Today, this remains the preferred method of trouser support amongst adherents of classical British tailoring. Many men claim this method is more effective and more comfortable because it requires no cinching of the waist or periodic adjustment.